From the Pep Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. Former President Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, who dedicated his life after leaving office to brokering international peace, has died at the age of 100, his office confirmed on Sunday. Carter had been receiving hospice care since February 2023 at his home in Plains, Georgia, where he lived with his wife of 77 years, Rosalind Carter. The former First Lady, age 96, died on November 19, 2023. A Georgia native and a Democrat, Carter was elected president in 1976, defeating the Republican incumbent Gerald Ford in the aftermath of the Watergate scandal. Carter served one term before losing re-election in 1980 to Ronald Reagan, his bid hobbled by an inability to resolve the Iran hostage crisis, a standoff that lasted 444 days. Carter also was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his work on human rights around the world. The oldest living former president after the death of George H.W. Bush in 2018 at age 94, Carter was the first American president to have been born in a hospital. Carter was also the first U.S. president to reach their 100th birthday. In October 2024, for Carter's 100th birthday, President Biden recognized him in a direct-to-camera birthday message shared with CBS News, saying, "Mr. President, you've always been a moral force for our nation and for the world. I recognize that as a young senator. That's why I supported you so early. You're a voice of courage, conviction, compassion, and most of all, a beloved friend of Jill and me and our family." Only 56 years old when he left the Oval Office, Carter would spend the next 4 decades focusing on good works that made him an almost universally revered figure, sometimes called America's greatest ex-president, a sharp contrast to his relatively low popularity when he exited the White House in January 1981. For years, he and his wife could be found on construction sites, hoisting beams and pounding nails to build homes for the disadvantaged with the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity. Around the world, Carter was recognized after his presidency for his tireless work promoting peaceful resolutions to conflict and advancing democracy, human rights, and social justice primarily through the Carter Center, which he and the former First Lady established at Emory University in Atlanta in 1982. Working through the center, the Carters traveled to developing countries to monitor elections, help build democratic institutions, lobby for victims of human rights abuses, and spearhead efforts to eradicate diseases. Carter was diagnosed with melanoma in 2015, a virulent form of skin cancer that had spread to his liver and his brain. He underwent experimental treatment with the immunotherapy drug pembrolizumab, also known as Keytruda, and a few months later, he announced that the doctors had ended his treatments after having found no signs of tumors. Carter spent much of his second half of 2019, right before the pandemic hit, in the hospital for brain surgery, infections, and 2 falls that resulted in a broken hip and pelvis. He was back teaching Sunday school at the Maranatha Baptist Church 2 weeks after he fractured his pelvis. He told the congregation at the time that since doctors told him in 2015 that cancer had spread to his brain, he had been absolutely and completely at ease with death. Now this news from Philadelphia. With LGBTQ plus rights on the chopping block during the next term, Councilmember Rue Landau is seeking input from the community aimed at reinforcing Philadelphia's laws to safeguard vulnerable groups. Introduced on November 21st, Landau's resolution authorizes the Committee on Law and Government to hold hearings with the intent of strengthening Philadelphia's existing laws to protect immigrant rights, LGBTQ+ individuals, and reproductive freedoms in the face of changing policies. The Trump preparedness hearings are designed to bring together city officials, community leaders, and advocacy groups to examine the existing policies and determine potential vulnerabilities. From there, proactive strategies will be developed to ensure Philadelphia's laws do not fold in the face of federal law. With Project 2025 set to dismantle many existing protections, Landau is seeking input from fellow leaders who can help contribute to such precautionary measures. The big question is, what is Donald Trump going to do when he's in power again to try to roll back those protections and ensure that Philadelphia does not have the power to protect these groups? asked Landau. I've been a civil rights and housing lawyer for my entire professional career, and his plans that he's already outlined, both verbally and in documents like Project 2025, are frightening. As Philadelphia's first openly LGBTQ plus councilperson and with a career devoted to advocacy, Landau is deeply impacted by Trump's threats to upend existing rights. Utilizing her experience and expertise as a housing and civil rights lawyer, Landau has spent decades assisting low-income families in community legal services and legal aid, and by running two city agencies, including the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations and the Fair Housing Commission. She has seen success working with government agencies like the Philadelphia Housing Authority, challenging them to help their residents by creating fairer laws for local families. The ongoing fight remains so personal to her because she has been involved in creating many of the protections that are being threatened by the new administration. And finally, this story from Pittsburgh. A grassroots group trying to thwart the demolition of Pittsburgh's once oldest gay bars is pushing for Donny's Place to be designated as a historic city landmark so it cannot be torn down. The defunct establishment at 1226 Heron Avenue in Polish Hill opened in 1973 and closed 2 years ago. Over its nearly 50-year history as a bar and nightclub, it hosted meetings, pageants, films, performances, fetish nights, fundraisers, memorials, happy hours, and hot dog roasts. Lizzie Anderson, one of the people who nominated Donny's Place for landmark status before the city's Historic Review Commission, said the nomination package was submitted at the end of October, gathering support from the local queer community. Having Donny's Place right at the base of the neighborhood, both as a welcomer to the neighborhood, but also as an exit, I am especially interested in preserving the history that has happened there, said Anderson, age 39, a queer community member in Polish Hill. Anderson's efforts to appear to contradict the wishes of Donny's former owner and namesake, Donald Thines, who died in January. Thines had entered into a sales agreement with developer Laurel Communities to tear down the former bar and build townhouses on the parcel of land where the building stands, as well as nearby parcels, according to Anderson. If action isn't taken, she said, the property, which is owned by Thines Real Estate, will be torn down. Laurel Communities did not return messages seeking comment, and the executor of the estate could not be reached. Donny's Place would be the first queer history landmark in Western Pennsylvania if the designation goes through, according to Anderson. It would mean a lot to me, Anderson said, to imagine that would be right in our neighborhood with a place that I know. That would be just so exciting. Anderson said Donny's was also the site of early recruitment for the Pitt Men's Study for HIV/AIDS, which launched in 1984 and is still ongoing. Thines was a member of the Pittsburgh Tavern Guild, a collective queer bar owners in the city, according to Qberg, an online publication for Pittsburgh's LGBTQ+ community. Donny's Place went by many names, including the Nora Social Club, DB's, and Leather Central, Qberg said. The basement bar, called Leather Central, was known for patrons wearing leather apparel. That's a quick check of the news at this hour. Be sure to download the Live 365 app in order to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. Be sure to check out more information about this and all of the other stories that we cover on the Pennsylvania Equality Project's website, paequality.com. Just simply go to the PEP Radio page. Again, that is a quick check of the news at this hour. Now back to more music here on PEP Radio.